registered dietitian nutritionist. I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida in the Food Science and Human Nutrition Department, and I'm also a practicing clinician at the Norman Fixel Institute for Neurological Diseases, where I see many, many different neuromuscular and neurodegenerative conditions in the patients that we see there. So what do we want to talk about tonight? Well, I think it would be a great thing to discuss quality of life, and specifically Sharegiver quality of life. I'm no stranger to quality of life research. I actually spent going on 4 years of research in the field of quality of life. And if you do a quick Google search, you'll get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of hits on quality of life for patients of a certain kind. And while it seems to be growing a little bit, there is far from enough research in the changes and effects of caring for someone on the and the quality of life that has on our caregivers here. So I want to discuss a little bit about what quality of life is and what we can be conscious of to make sure that we're living our best life while taking care of our loved ones. And I also want to dive in a little bit to the impact that nutrition specifically has on physical and mental well-being. Okay, so let's start off by talking about quality of life here. Just a little bit, another note here about the infrastructure or the structure of today's presentation. Feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. This is a very loose format here. But if there are no questions, we can kind of talk about everything. And then as they come to you near the end of the presentation, which won't be that long, it'll be maybe 15 or 20 minutes, I'd be happy to address any questions that you think of at that time. Okay, so quality of life. I'm sure you've heard it many, many times. What is it? So best way to describe it is by separating it out into its 3 main components or 3 domains. And this is a big research field here. There's a lot of different researchers in different health conditions looking at the physical aspect of health, the mental aspect of health, and the social aspect of health. And so you can see here, if I go ahead and actually make my laser pen, I think I can, let me make it something a little brighter here. That's pretty small. I don't know why it's that small there. Here we go. So on the right-hand side of the screen here, we have the physical health, which is attributed to this circle at the top of the screen on the left. We have mental health, and I'm not a big fan of that term. I prefer mental well-being. And we have that on the right-hand side of this Venn diagram. And then we have social well-being on the left-hand side of this Venn diagram. And you can see how they overlap. All of these make up one's quality of life. Now, quality of life generally refers to both the physical, mental, and social aspects of life. The physical aspect of life is central to quality of life, right? Because it reflects whether one can work, make meals, travel, shop, and ultimately be independent. Mental well-being, on the other hand, describes a state of positive effect and psychological functioning. Mental well-being has been associated with health and longevity, so it's kind of a balance there. Now, many times, social health or social well-being is kind of coupled into mental well-being. But some researchers have kind of separated out, like you see in this Venn diagram here. So if you see me or if you hear me mention mental health, I probably also mean the social aspect of that too. But these are kind of in a very delicate balance, because let's say you're in perfect physical health, but your mental well-being is something that's suffering due to stress or fear of becoming unhealthy or fear of your loved one experiencing some symptom of their disease. That can throw your whole health, your whole quality of life out of balance. And so just to kind of frame the rest of our conversation, let's look at a little bit more depth each one of these aspects here. So you can see physical health. I think most of us can feel this. They kind of get an idea of what physical health is. It's physical conditioning, physical functioning, your mobility, your satisfaction with your strength and physical health there. Now, you also have mental health, and I mentioned a few points about this already, but mental health, mental well-being Are you anxious? Are you feeling depressed? Are you having large amounts of stress? What is your psychological well-being? How is your effect? Do you have a positive effect, a negative effect? How is your cognitive functioning? Is stress causing your cognition to be diminished in some way? And then finally, you have social health. So you have this family functioning and marital functioning and functioning within your friend social circle. How is that affecting how you feel about yourself and your sense of community? And so, like I pointed out when we started this discussion on this slide here, you do have some overlap. And there's one overlap that I really want to point out because that's where our discussion today is going to lie. And it's right here. It's mainly at the intersection of physical health and mental health, but also where all three come together. And if you kind of look over here at these few bullet points on the upper right hand side of the diagram here, you can kind of start to see where nutrition plays a pretty significant role. Energy, sleep problems, your perception of your own health, physical symptoms, health distress, pain. All of these have a nutrition component, and all of these are extremely important for you as an individual and for you as a caregiver. So you can imagine if you're not eating the best, you're having an especially bad week, things are very stressful, you might not feel like eating very much or eating the foods that you know that you should be. Maybe that's having an effect on your energy. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more fatigued. Maybe depending on when you're eating and what you're eating, you might be having a bit of trouble sleeping, which is kind of compounding some of those issues. You're having some physical symptoms, maybe. You know you're not eating right. And so that's giving you extra stress and anxiety. And then also, let's say we're eating a lot of refined foods, high sugar, lots of red meat. That can be kind of contributing to an inflammatory state in the body. And that can even have a physical symptom embodying pain. Okay. And so we want to kind of dive into this aspect of quality of life so we know what to do to best serve ourselves and to serve our communities as well as to serve our loved ones with FSHD. Let's go to the next slide here. So I want to share a couple research studies with you because as a PhD student, I've got to share the research, right? I've just got to do it. It's in my DNA. So there's a couple here that I want to share. This is the first one. This is a great review from the journal Nutrients, fairly recent. I believe it was 2018. The title is Dietary Patterns and Quality of Life in Older Adults. Now, I think this can very fairly be extrapolated beyond older adults because we're actually going to see this in different populations here. But what do we see? What did these researchers find when they looked at people's diets and correlated that with quality of life? Well, number one, healthy dietary patterns were associated with better self-rated health and quality of life. And again, I think that's something we can feel inherently as humans. Diet's better, we're going to feel better, and our quality of life is going to be better. Further, adherence to healthy diet patterns like the Mediterranean diet, foreshadowing, were significantly associated with improvements in at least one quality of life domain. So again, going back to the last slide, these domains and subdomains were improved with healthier diets. So what we can say is people were having more energy, less sleep problems, less negative health perceptions, less pain, less anxiety, less depression when they were on a better diet. Okay. So that's the first one I want to share with you. The second one here, not hard to understand. So this one, it was from the British Journal of Nutrition, just came out last year. It was changes in plant-based diet quality and how that affected one's quality of life. Another term that you'll see a lot of times is HRQOL, or health-related quality of life. Essentially, they're the same thing. Some researchers exclusively use health-related quality of life. Some just use quality of life. Don't worry about it too much. But anyway, these researchers wanted to look at a specific diet, a plant-based diet, but whether or not a healthy plant-based diet or an unhealthy plant-based diet had any effect on quality of life in women. And very simply, again, this is something we can feel. You want to look at these two bottom graphs. I think that's the easiest here. So in this very bottom graph on the right-hand side of the screen, this is the unhealthy plant-based diet. This one here is the healthy plant-based diet, the eyes index, so HPDI. And what we can see is if we start at the bottom, what we can see is people who were eating an unhealthy plant-based diet, maybe one that was high in refined foods, a lot of cookies and high sugar, low fiber foods, still plant-based, but kind of low nutrient status. What did we see? Well, they had lower physical scores, lower physical complex scores, lower mental complex scores. So basically less quality of life, lower quality of life, worse quality of life overall. And how did that manifest? If we kind of subdivide even farther, they had worse physical functioning. They had more body pain. They had a lower perception of their general health. They had lower vitality, lower social functioning, more mental limitations, and lower mental health overall. Now, what did the people following a healthy plant-based diet experience? Well, exactly what you would expect, right? Better physical functioning, better mental well-being, higher physical functioning, physical or less physical role limitations, less body pain, better general health perspective, more vitality, more social engagement, less mental limitations, and better mental health. So we're starting to see it. We're starting to feel it. These diets, nutrition, has a significant role on how you feel, what you feel, and what you can do. One more, if you will. This one, very similar to the first study that I just showed you here. Another systematic review looking at the association between different diets and quality of life. I don't have to sugarcoat this anymore. Healthy diet patterns and Mediterranean dietary patterns are associated with better dimension scores of quality of life in both physical and mental summaries. And I just want to take a moment here to just really hammer this home, really hit the nail here. A lot of people think about food as fuel. They think about it as fueling their body. But what might not be as easy to think about or easy to understand is the effect that it has on your brain, on your affect, on your happiness, on your anxiety, and on your stress. And what we're seeing through these research articles is that people are getting stronger. People are getting more independent, staying healthy and doing the things that they want to do. But that food is also affecting them indirectly, helping their mind be the best that it can be. 3 weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the gut-brain connection. How is this happening? How can that be? How can me eating a kiwi fruit help me feel happier? And it's all through the gut-brain axis. The bacteria in our gastrointestinal tract are intimately connected with our immune system and our nervous system. And if those little bacteria, those billions of bacteria, trillions of bacteria, are in an inflammatory state or in a state that really we don't see as healthful over a long period of time, that can really, really detrimentally affect our immune system. It can aggravate it, and it can also start firing some nervous system pathways that also affect that. So again, the gut is where everything comes together. And so once we can kind of put those two things together, okay, diet's good for physical health, but then it's also great for mental health through the gut-brain axis, then things start to really click here. Okay, so what are my recommendations for my sharegivers here? There's a couple things beyond nutrition that I even want to mention here. So the first is physical activity. We were talking about physical health, and nutrition is a massive component of that. But it might be even argued that physical activity is a larger part of that, right? You can eat as much protein as you want, but if you're not working it, you don't have a use for it. Okay. So what do I recommend? I see this all the time in the clinic. So many people are doing some type of exercise, but maybe not the right type of exercise. Many people are good at doing cardiovascular exercise. Many people are going walking or biking or jogging or swimming or rowing. And those are fantastic. And I always make a point to make sure that I encourage them to continue doing that. But one other thing that we really have to acknowledge is that those exercises really might not be allowing us to be as strong as we'd like, and maybe not allowing us to have as much immune capacity as we'd like. So, what I really recommend more than anything is some type of resistance training. And what do I mean by that? Resistance training is exercises that you do with your body, just body weight exercises, maybe squats, standing, sitting down in a chair and standing up. Maybe you're using resistance bands. Maybe you're sitting on the couch watching TV and you're just doing some bicep curls, some lateral raises. Or maybe you're somebody who really does go to the gym a few times a week and you do classical weightlifting. All of those are great because they're keeping you strong, they're making you strong, they're helping you maintain your balance. And like I mentioned before, it's also helping with the immune system because the immune system, a lot of it lives in the muscle tissue. And so if you're really not doing much resistance training, or you're really not a big exerciser, you might have a smaller or lower immune capacity than somebody who is exercising. So we want to give a house, we want to give a home to our immune system so that it can really fight the seasonal flu that's going to be coming around real soon, and any other disturbance that we might experience in our daily lives. I'm not going to go as far to say that resistance training can help you not get COVID, because that is very much not true. Definitely get your vaccines and get your boosters for that. But we still want to be strong for more reasons than just, being able to lift a heavy box. Okay. So make sure you're doing good cardiovascular exercise. Make sure you're going for those walks, but also make sure you're doing some type of resistance training. And what is our goal here? What are we shooting for? We really want, at the minimum, to be doing 30 minutes of exercise per day, 5 days a week. Okay. And if any of you have questions on how to work that in, well, I've got all these appointments to go to, I've got all these errands to run, I've got all this work around the house to do. Let's brainstorm. How can we reduce your responsibility burden so that you can start taking better care of yourself? Okay, we'll circle back to that. Now, let's get a little bit more into nutrition here. Let's talk about what we can do to make sure that you're not cooking a meal for yourself and cooking a completely different meal for your families and loved ones. Okay, so I'll share a little bit of experience that I've had personally with this. I'll tell you, let's see, how many years ago was it? We're probably talking 5 to 7 years ago. Would you believe it if I told you that I used to go to the grocery store every night? Every single night I would go to the grocery store. This is how my day went. I would go to work or I would go to class, and I'd come home around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'd have a discussion with my fiance, and I'd say, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" And we'd kick it around for maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. And then there came a time when we were so hungry that we just said, "Well, we've got to eat. We're starting to bite each other's heads off. We've got to figure out something to eat." So I would run to the grocery store, hungry, looking for everything, and everything looks good. That Publix package of cookies was looking real tasty. That ice cream in the freezer section I was walking by, that looked great too. All these frozen meals, they looked great. And so I'd buy a bunch of it, bring it home, and then really wouldn't feel great about what we chose for dinner, but it was something that we needed to kind of knock out because we were ravenous. And that's really not the best way to approach your meals, any meal. And so what I eventually figured out was that I need to plan. And y'all might be thinking, well, duh, man, that's a no-brainer. I know it took me a while. I'm a little slow. But here's what I do now. And here's what I recommend to a lot of folks who are having a little bit of trouble figuring out what to eat on a day-to-day basis. So on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I discuss with my fiance, okay, these are the meals that we've liked. These are the recipes that we've tried in the past. They're tried and true. We know we're going to like them, at least until we get sick of them in a couple months. So I identify 5 meals that we're going to have during the next work week. And I buy all those groceries on Sunday morning or afternoon, and then I have them. I do not allocate a specific meal to a specific day. So I don't say Monday is spaghetti night, Tuesday is salmon night, Wednesday is lasagna night. I don't do that. And what that allows for is flexibility to change what you're going to eat based on your taste, but also the amount of effort and the amount of energy that you have. I'm sure many of you have had plans in the past to make a wonderful, elaborate dinner on a certain night, but that day gets there, and boy, was it a day. And 4 o'clock rolls around, 3 or 4 o'clock rolls around, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. I can't make that dinner tonight. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the patience for that. And so that's why I don't like to be tied down to a certain meal. I assess my own energy levels and say, okay, this is what we're going to have for dinner tonight based on what I think I can do. And you can kind of change these meals monthly, seasonally, like I like to do, or weekly. If you want to have 5 different meals every single week, absolutely. You must have plenty of recipe books around and recipes that you like. But that is something that I highly recommend, kind of planning a little bit. Now, like I said before, if you're having a little bit of trouble finding the energy to make meals that you would like to make, maybe healthier meals, maybe they do require a little bit more effort here or there. One thing that a lot of people sleep on is meal kit services. I'm talking about Blue Apron. I'm talking about Purple Carrot. I'm talking about a couple other ones. There's one with green in the name. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of these guys around now. And you might be thinking, well, I know those are expensive. Well, you might be right. But I would also challenge you to think about your current situation. If you were like me 5 to 7 years ago, going to the grocery store almost every night and spending 40 or 50 bucks at the grocery store, just buying kind of just random mishmash of stuff every time, meal kit services can probably save you money. And they really do reduce the burden to having a very healthy meal. And you don't have to order 5 meals a week from them. You can just get 1 or 2 or 3, just something to ease that entry into cooking some healthier meals. A lot of the work is done for you there. Now, many of us have nutrition goals. Maybe it's to gain weight, maybe it's to lose weight, maybe it's to get stronger. So what do we do when our loved one has different nutrition needs than we do? Here's what I recommend, and you'll kind of see this once we talk about the Mediterranean diet again. But if we have kind of a structure ready, we don't have to be making 2 different meals. Let's say that I am just trying to maintain my weight. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm fairly active. I don't need to do anything special. But my partner needs to gain weight. Let's say, let's use that as our first example. Well, what I would recommend is you cook your meal for you. Your partner is going to have the same thing, but what you're going to do for them, since they need to gain weight, is you're going to maybe give them an extra serving of protein, again, to kind of foster that muscle preservation, maybe put on a little bit of lean muscle. Talked about that a couple weeks ago. Maybe you'll give them an extra side. Maybe you'll give them an extra large serving of a side. Maybe you'll have a little extra dessert for them. Okay. So you've taken your meal and just modified it. You're not cooking yourself salmon and your partner or your loved one meatloaf. You're not going to do that because that is too much. Nobody can do that long term. What about the opposite? What if I'm good where I'm at, but your partner has to lose weight or they have a weight loss goal? Well, I would say make their meal for them. Basically, start with the most simple meal and then add to that. So you know what they need to accomplish their weight loss goal. And then just modify that same foods, just different amounts for yourself. Again, because you don't need to be eating, 3/4 or half of what you need to eat just because your partner is eating that quantity or those foods. Okay. So again, I expect some questions in a couple minutes when we get to the kind of open floor, if you have any questions about that. Now, last thing I want to mention here for you guys, supplements. We don't have to get fancy with supplements, but we do need to make sure that we are adequately nourished. I just saw this within the past 5 days. Somebody online was saying something a little silly about nutrition, and they said, well, it's fairly easy to get all the vitamins and minerals that you need. And I was just shaking my head behind my screen. I'm like, no, No, that's not the case. Thankfully, we live in a day and age where foods are enriched and fortified with extra vitamins and minerals, because otherwise we would have a really hard time. But many of us aren't eating the variety that we need. Variety is the spice of life. And a well-varied diet really does help us get all of the vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients that we need, but it's still hard. And so why not? Why not spend the $10 or the $12 or the $15 on a very standard multivitamin to ensure that you're getting everything you need every day? And so all you need to do now is worry about what you like and what you know you need for your health. So what I recommend, just get a Centrum, a one a day. Solgar is a brand that I like. I have no affiliation with any of these brands, by the way. Get one of those and take those every day, just to ensure that you don't have any nutritional deficiencies in your diet. Beyond that, what I might recommend is a protein powder. Many of us are active. Many of us have a lot of tasks to accomplish every day. Many of us might be at a stage where we want to make sure that we are maintaining our muscle mass. And so having protein powder around to throw in a smoothie or to throw in a glass of your favorite beverage after a workout is something that is very helpful and ensures good muscle growth, muscle retention. But also another thing here, protein keeps us full. So if you're a snacker like me, what you want to make sure you're getting in the diet is plenty of fiber and also plenty of protein. Protein helps fill you up, makes you feel full, keeps you satisfied for a longer period of time. Okay, so if you have any questions about these recommendations, let's talk about it in a couple minutes. Some of you might have seen this last time we talked, so 3 weeks ago, but I did want to talk about the diet that I recommend again. Now, thankfully, this is the same diet that I recommend for our loved ones with FSHD. It's a Mediterranean diet. It is the diet that 99% of humans should be on. It's a diet that is very high in very healthy fats that are very good for the nervous system. It is very high in different fiber sources that help to nourish our gut microbiome and therefore help to keep that gut-brain axis healthy. And it has plenty of antioxidants and healthy proteins to support not only systemic health, not only cardiovascular health, but neurological and gastrointestinal health too. So let's take a look at this again. So Mediterranean diet. What do we want the most of? These are the things on the screen that we want the most of. We want a lot of fruit. We want a lot of veg. We want a lot of unrefined grains. Again, we want that fiber. We want that fiber. Don't take that fiber out. That's good. We want pulses. Those are beans and peas and lentils. We also want a responsible source or portion of nuts, and I'll get to that in 1 second. And we want to make our main culinary fat extra virgin olive oil, EVOO. Now let's start with olive oil here. I recommend about 4 tablespoons of olive oil a day. And again, the reason why we're going with olive oil is because olive oil is mainly monounsaturated fats. Without getting too deep into it, these help our cells be dynamic. They help our cells get things to the surface and take things away as soon as they need to. If you're eating a lot of these saturated fats, a lot of red meat, that kind of makes our cells stiff. You can kind of think about that in your arteries. You're eating a lot of red meat, eating a lot of potatoes, got a lot of a very standard American diet. You're going to have some stiffness, and that stiffness doesn't allow for being dynamic, and that can cause problems in the long term. So we want extra virgin olive oil, 4 tablespoons a day. Don't worry, you don't have to put it into a shot glass and knock it back. You can just cook with it, okay? That's what we want to do. Now, fruit. We want 3 cups of fruit a day. That's a good amount for a lot of people. All fruit are good. There's some evidence to suggest that your dark red and blue berries might be especially neuroprotective. So if that's something that you're thinking about, definitely kind of emphasize maybe those blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and strawberries there. Veggies, fairly standard recommendation here. We want at least 2 cups of veggies a day. But if you remember from a couple weeks ago, there's another thing that I like to layer on here, and that's variety. We talked about variety a couple minutes ago. we want to make sure that we're getting a lot of different types of fiber, a lot of different types of phytonutrients into our diets. And so in addition to this 2 cups or more a day, what I challenge you to accomplish here is over the course of each week, try to get 15 different vegetables into your diet. So again, don't just eat broccoli and carrots every day. You could do that. You would get your 2 cups or 2 servings of veggies a day by doing that, but you're really not reaping the benefits of variety. Okay. Unrefined grains, again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, we want the fiber. That fiber is nourishing our guts, nourishing the bacteria in our guts, and that is going to help us have a healthier and happier immune and nervous system. Beans, peas, and lentils, you want to have a cup of these 3 times a week. These are if there was ever a superfood, these are it. They're a great source of protein. So if you're getting a little tired of your typical meat picks here, throw some beans in there, throw some lentils in there, have some English peas. Great source of protein and a great source of a very unique type of fiber that's good for the guts too. Now, nuts are very healthy. Nuts are very healthy. Here, let me get that off the screen. Nuts are very healthy. What we have to be conscious of, though, is their caloric content. They're a great source of healthy fat. They're a great source of a little bit of protein, but they are very calorically dense and they're very easy to eat. So when you are having some walnuts or some almonds or cashews or pistachios, make sure you're getting yourself just a small handful. A small handful, put that bag away. Don't eat it in front of the TV. Don't eat in front of the iPad. Don't eat it in front of the computer, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up eating 900 calories of that night, not even feel it. Okay. So they're healthy, but we have to eat the appropriate amount of them. Okay. Now, what do we want in the diet, but maybe not as emphasized as the things we've talked about? So, main source of animal protein should be fish and seafood. Fatty fish should be in the diet at least once a week. Again, this is a protein that is very dense, very satisfying, and also supplies those polyunsaturated fats. Again, very healthy for the immune system, very healthy for the nervous system, very powerful antioxidants. So at least once a week, have some tuna or mackerel or salmon or herring or sardines. Whatever you like, have that at least once a week. Now, if you're not a fan or a big fan of these foods, you can have other types of fish or shellfish, as long as you're not sensitive to those. And that's what you fill in the rest of the week there, if you're not feeling these fatty fish. So have fatty fish at least 3 times a week. Again, you can have it more often, but that's really going to give us the most benefit, most health benefit. Now, what about chicken? Chicken is okay. What about turkey? Turkey is okay. Your white meats, those are fine. Have those when you're not having seafood or fish or shellfish. Okay. Now, dairy products, fermented dairy products like yogurts and cheeses, they're fine, but they are not emphasized in this diet. I see a lot of people going way too heavy into cheese. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that they loved cheese, boy, would I be a very rich man. Cheeses are there to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of flavor, a little bit of texture to the dish. It's there to lift the dish up. It's not there to be a main ingredient. There's not a lot of great nutrition in cheese. There's a little bit of protein. It's got an okay amount of fat, but again, not the type of fat that we really want. So cheese, again, is there to enhance the dish. Yogurts are fine. Just make sure that you're not getting a yogurt with a bunch of sugar in it. A lot of times they have a very good amount of protein. They're adding protein to them like it's going out of style these days, but we don't want the ones where they've added 15, 20, 30 grams of sugar. And if it does have sugar, make sure it's coming from fruit. Make sure when you look at the label, it doesn't say added sugar. It just says sugar, and then make sure that they haven't added it. Eggs are fine, great source of protein. Don't overdo it with eggs. I see this occasionally. People will be eating, a dozen eggs every 2 days. And at that point, I wonder, are you getting enough of the other good stuff in the diet? Are you getting enough of the fruit? Are you getting enough of the veg? Are you getting enough of the fatty fish? Are you just, housing eggs all day long and really not getting enough of the other stuff there? Wine with meals. If you, those of you who were joined our conversation a couple weeks ago, we had a couple questions about wine. Wine is really not nutritive. There's a lot, or there at least was, there were a lot of buzz about red wine specifically and the antioxidants that are in red wine, anthocyanins, they call them. And they do exist. They are in red wine, but like I said, there's really not a nutritive effect. You'd have to drink something like 100 bottles of wine to really have a physiologic effect of those antioxidants. You get a physiologic effect of that ethanol in there way before that. But wine, even though it doesn't have a nutritive effect, it can help you engage more. It can help you engage with your meal. It can help you engage with your family and friends. It can help you engage in your environment. Reduce stress. That's what we're going for. We're going for those non-nutritive benefits that have been shown for healthy and responsible alcohol consumption. So have it with meals. Have about 5 ounces of wine or a serving of your preferred beverage, but don't overdo it. Have it with friends and meals. Don't drink alone. That's what we want to do. Now, what do we want to kind of limit? One thing I also want to note here is low consumption does not mean no consumption. You do not have to avoid these at all costs. You surely can, but you don't have to. So we want to limit red and processed meat, and we want to limit refined sugar. So again, we know that there's a massive health benefit from fatty fish consumption. We kind of see either neutral or negative health outcomes with red and processed meat consumption. So again, what I say is if you like a steak, if you like pork, have it a couple times per week, 2 times per week at the most. Really look forward to it. Schedule it. Hey, Friday night, we're going to have steak. Sounds great, but really don't make it something that is a huge component of the diet. Now, the holidays are here, right? We just got through Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was great. We've got Hanukkah now, I believe. We've got Christmas coming up in a couple weeks. We want to make sure we're keeping an eye on our refined sugar consumption, cakes, candies, pastries, cookies. Again, I love cookies. I was talking to my fiance a day or two ago. I said, "Hey, you're going to make chocolate crinkle cookies here in the next couple of weeks for Christmas, right?" And that's a certainty. You can bet on it. One thing I just want to again think about how much you're consuming. If you're eating 5 cookies at lunchtime and you're looking for them after dinner, that's something that you might want to just keep an eye on there. It's okay to indulge. It's okay to allow yourself to have the things that you want, but just keep an eye on how often you're doing it and think about your own health goals. Think about your nutrition goals. And if your consumption of these treats around the holidays aren't really aligning with your overall health and nutrition goals, maybe it's time to reassess having them in the house or how often you allow yourself to consume them. But there is nothing wrong with enjoying a responsible serving. See how I worded that? A responsible serving of these cookies and candies and cakes and pastries a couple times a week. Again, just like the red meat, just like the processed meat, 2 times per week, let yourself enjoy it. But after that, again, just keep an eye on it. Now, these are some things that we want to kind of utilize to really make sure that we are mastering the diet that we know is likely to enhance your health. Make sure that you are feeling the best physically, mentally, and socially. So again, only using olive oil as your main culinary fat, making sure we're getting those 2 servings of vegetables a day, 3 servings of fruit a day, wine with dinner if you drink, 5 ounces. Don't forget to add the beans and the peas and the lentils. Again, those are all our pulses 3 or more times per week. Enjoying that fatty fish, having a responsible and adequate portion of nuts at least 3 times a week, choosing white meat over red meat, and then using something like sofrito. I didn't mention this on the previous slide, but sofrito is kind of like a tomato sauce. A little bit of olive oil in a hot pan, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion, some crushed tomatoes, maybe some herbs and spices, thyme, Let's see, what are some other ones? Can't think of any other ones right now, but that's a great way to start a very delicious, very beautiful, very healthy dinner. You can add some fish to that. You can add some veggies to that. You can toss it with some rice. Great way to just start incorporating some of these foods that we know are going to enhance our health. And again, save the red meat, save the soda, save the pastries for those special occasions, a few times a month, 2 times per week. That's what we want to make sure that we're kind of concentrating on there. Now, again, I want to bring this back here. As caregivers, we have a lot going on. You have a lot going on. And so I want to remind you, food is more than fuel. It's nourishment, okay? You don't just need it to go for that walk or pick up that box or do the dishes. You need it to do what you want to do, to accomplish the goals that you have as an individual. Prioritizing your needs is essential to your health and the health of your relationships. You have to take time for you. You have to do the things that are going to make you feel good so that you can take care of those things that matter in your life. And please don't forget to be kind to yourself. Many times we're going to stumble. Many times we're not going to eat the way that we want to eat ideally. Many times Matt's going to eat 8 cookies in the course of about 6 minutes. And that's okay. I'm not going to beat myself up over that because I know that at that moment, it was good. It was enjoyable. But going forward, I'm going to put that in the past. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. I'm not going to bring home a big old crate of cookies because I have my nutrition goals. And I know eating 8 cookies in 6 minutes doesn't feel great for me. Okay, so be kind to yourself. It's okay to stumble. Just get back on the horse. Now, with that, my contact information is on the screen there. Feel free to jot that down. But I'd love to open it up to you guys. What nutrition questions do you have? What meal prep questions do you have? What supplement questions do you have? What are your goals? What can I help you accomplish? Thank you for listening. Looking forward to your questions.
That was terrific. Thank you, Matt.
Of course.
So anyone have questions or want to share a story or experience?
I have one question.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you think we should take protein just only when we do exercise, or we can just take it daily? Because I do exercise like 4 or 5 times maximum a week, and 2-3 days I give myself to relax, actually, my body to relax.
Sure.
That days, should I also take protein?
That's a great question. And what I would say is it sounds like you're doing it exactly as I would recommend. So when you are doing those exercises, you know, you're doing some resistance training, you're going for a long swim, you're doing some rowing. Those are the types of activities that do put some strain on the muscle. And so we do want to give our bodies an extra little bit of protein to make sure it has the building blocks to rebuild that muscle so that we stay strong, we don't get too sore, but we heal up nice and quick. On the days where you are not exercising, really what I would say is take a look at your diet. If you're somebody who's eaten 2 eggs in the morning with some yogurt and some fruit, and then for lunch you're having yourself a turkey sandwich with a side of beans and you know, maybe something else, and then for dinner you're having some salmon and some peas and some asparagus. There's a lot of protein already kind of built into your diet. And so what I might recommend is maybe doing a simple calculation here, and I can just tell it to you. Take your weight in kilograms, and if you're somebody who is doing a fair amount of activity, multiply it by 1 to 1.2. So I weigh about, I won't be super honest with you guys, I weigh 75 to 80 kilograms. Okay, so for me as an active individual, I would probably take somewhere between 75 and 80 grams a day, up to, let's say right around 95 grams. A lot of people overdo it with protein. They go way high. I know plenty of young people who completely don't understand protein needs, and they try to eat 300 grams of protein a day. And that is so unnecessary. I just feel bad because I feel like they're just sitting at the table all day trying to house as much chicken breast as they can. So it's not necessary to drink a protein supplement on your off days, on your rest days, unless you feel as though you're not getting quite enough protein from the actual food you're eating. So it can come from the supplement, it can come from the diet. As long as you're getting it, that's what counts.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
So I wanted to share that I started subscribing to Purple Carrot about 2 or 3 years ago. For those who don't know, Purple Carrot is a vegan meal kit service. And I think Matt Bittman might have been involved early on as a consultant on it. But anyway, I love the recipes. I tend to go more for like the more intensely spiced and flavored like Indian and Thai and so on. But what I love about it is that it takes out the mental work of planning the meals, planning 7 meals a week plus lunch and breakfast, right? So and it takes out the, I love to cook, but it just, the shopping, the planning part takes it away. I get to explore new recipes because I've gotten into a rut of like 10 or 15 things that I make without, off the top of my head. So, and it just, and it gives me this kind of backbone for my husband and myself that we know we're eating this super, vegan, very, plant-based, very healthy food, at least half of the week. And then the other half of the week, my husband might decide, we want to get takeout and we get, Cuban roast pork and, like whatever, we can indulge on that end a little bit. But I think it makes it's nice. And as you say, we just 3 dinners a week. And I think it's made things, made it much more manageable for us to achieve I'd say our nutrition goals. And it's enjoyable. At the end of the day, I can cook, the ingredients are there and the portions I need. I don't have to worry about what I do with this half a can of something, and so I highly recommend it. I think it's it's cost effective. I think of what I normally spend in groceries and what I spend on the meal kits. I think and the time, the driving and everything. I think it's very cost effective, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, June, because I think it gives the opportunity to experience things that you might never try otherwise. I talk to a lot of patients in the clinic that they tell me, oh, I've never tried that, or oh, I don't like that. And then when I pry a little deeper, it's just, they have never tried it before. It's not that they don't like it. And it really does make it very easy to try new things. And so if you are stuck in a rut, if you need some new ideas, why not let this company take care of basically everything except, putting it in the oven or cooking it on the stovetop. And then at that point, oh, wow, I didn't know I loved Brussels sprouts, but man, I sure do like them now. So it's a great way to get out of a rut, to allow yourself to try new things, and then also really be able to try some recipes that are right in line with the recommendations that we talked about today, especially the ones like Purple Carrot that really do kind of focus on the vegetarian or the vegan options there.
We were talking about healthy gut, and something that I don't know anything about, and I don't know if you know about, is I know people use probiotics, and I don't
Mhm.
even know what that means. So you're a good person to ask about that.
I would love to talk a little bit about probiotics here. So in my lab, my mentor, her name is Dr. Bobby Henkin. If you're ever curious, you can Google her. She's been doing nutrition research for 30 plus years. She was kind of at the forefront of probiotics and prebiotics. And so let me just start by kind of defining those. So probiotics are either supplements or food additives that are bacteria. So there are large families of bacteria that make up a majority of the bugs in the gut. Lactobacillus is one of them. Bifidobacterium is another one of them. And so what you'll see if you see a probiotic supplement on the shelf or in the fridge or in yogurt, or good Lord, they're putting them in everything almost nowadays, in milk products, not just yogurt products, some cheeses, of course. They're adding them because of the inferred benefit. And the reason why I put it like that is because there is a ton of research continuing to come out. It's been coming out, still coming out like a completely open faucet, about research on the gut microbiome, the bacteria of the gut, and how it affects health. And what most average consumers just assume, I would think, is that, oh, it's got probiotics in there, it must be healthy. Now, it's not that it's unhealthy. Many times, what's likely to be occurring is that that probiotic supplement or that yogurt or that other food product probably isn't having a large effect on your personal gut microbiome. So if I have some Chobani yogurt tomorrow morning with some bacteria or some probiotics in there, that's probably not going to have a big impact. Taking an over-the-counter probiotic supplement, a pill, a capsule, that's probably not going to have a major impact. There are plenty of studies, and we've done some in-house, where we look at stool samples, and we can actually see a change in the gut microbiome once someone starts a probiotic supplement. Again, that may or may not, most likely will not lead to a long-term health benefit. But let's say you're somebody who had to go on an antibiotic regimen recently, and you've been having some gastrointestinal symptoms. Well, we'd probably want to reestablish those very large communities of bacteria in the gut again. They were there before. Why not help us get back to where it was beforehand? A probiotic supplement might be helpful in that situation. What's important to remember, though, is the diet is the master regulator of the gut microbiome. You don't necessarily need probiotic supplements or foods with added probiotics in there. Eventually, most likely what will happen is your gut microbiome will return to the way it was before, say, for instance, an antibiotic regimen was started. And that's because, again, we kind of populate our gut microbiome through the food that we eat. The food that we eat is not perfectly clean. And so we're kind of getting the bacteria that was on those veggies and those fruits. And those are, again, populating the gut microbiome there. So the best way to influence your gut microbiome, the bacteria in your gut, is not necessarily by taking a supplement, although you can. It's most likely going to be from the diet. Okay. Now, one other thing I failed to define there was prebiotics. So prebiotics are types of fiber that the bacteria in our guts can actually feast on. What's nice is that these prebiotics, these food for that bacteria, they can kind of help smaller communities of bacteria grow and thrive. And so you'll see a lot of times, what comes to my mind is like crackers and protein bars and nut bars. They'll add chicory root, they'll add inulin, they'll add these sources of fermentable fiber that could help bolster certain communities of bacteria that could be beneficial in the gastrointestinal tract. So bottom line is, don't feel like you have to take a probiotic supplement. That is definitely not the case, not by a long shot. But in certain cases, in certain scenarios, maybe starting to take one for a little while could be beneficial to kind of reestablish some of those healthy species of bugs. It's all a delicate balance. It's an ecosystem down there. You basically have the world's population in your gut if every person was bacteria. And so it's a very delicate community, very delicate environment. And so we might need a little help to reestablish it sometimes.
Thanks. That was helpful.
Of course.